Hey guys, it's quote unquote your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great response video. In this video, we are going to be responding to Kevin Ray Wilder. I know that, there's at least some guys out there who really would like to see more Casey stuff. And, you know, obviously, if I know that there's something that people like, I want to make more of it. But I don't think I have it in me. I mean, I've tried to watch a few. There's been at least 5 or 6 times, at least the last 5 or 6 times. I think more than that I've tried to watch Casey's stuff. I can't make it through the first minute. Like, I just don't think there's anything else to be said about it, and I just can't stand the guy. But this Kevin Ray Wilder guy may provide some content for a while. There's certainly some similarities to Casey. I would be interested if I could meet this guy. That would be the first thing I would ask him, is what he thought of Casey. If he was, he's got to know who Casey is. What he thinks about Casey, because there's some overlaps and there's some pretty big differences. I want to say he's not as cringe as Casey, but I don't know if that's even really true. The difference is, whatever you think of CRW, maybe we should just call him Kevin, whatever you think of Kevin, he at least comes off as a human being who you may not like or whatever, but human nonetheless. Casey is like some weird robot who is built in a lab to imitate the stereotype of what a red pillar acts like. I'm not convinced that Casey is a real person. So they're definitely different. In terms of looks, I mean, the thing is, when I first saw Casey, I thought he was pretty handsome, and I even chided you guys in the comments saying, you guys are all a bunch of black-pilled haters, you don't get it, he's really not a bad-looking guy. But Casey is a guy who gets less attractive to me every time I see him. And I don't know if it's because I dislike, because there's people who I dislike who much more than I dislike Casey, who I think are handsome. I mean, Biden, when he was young, was really handsome, and I revile Joe Biden. I don't revile Casey. I just don't like him. But if you ask me, who's better, better looking between Kevin Ray Wilder and Casey, I mean, 6 months ago, I'd have said Casey, and now I'd say Kevin Ray Wilder. Some of you guys have been critical of Kevin's looks in the comments. He's a Chad, more because of the skull shape, the height, the frame, the hair. But people have been critical of his face. And it's weird because, from a black pill perspective, I don't really see anything wrong with the face. He's got hunter eyes that are upturned. But I agree, it just doesn't come together that well. I think the face by itself is kind of, I mean, it's better than average. It's good. It's a good face, but I don't know if it's not a great face, which is, nothing wrong with that. So what I'm saying is the face is Chad Light at best. The face is, I would consider the face more high tier normie, but you could, I know that there's not much of a difference between high tier normie and Chad Light in terms of face. I think it's really, I think, not that I'm into guys, but I think he's just not my type. But in terms of total package, I consider him a legit Chad. I know some of you guys in the comments are saying, oh no, he's just a Chad Light. No, I think he's a legit Chad, which is part of what makes, his advice so frustrating. You got these, that you'd have a Chad giving advice to often substantially younger normies and, I don't know, what do you call somebody who's below a normie? Whatever below a normie is. Hold on one second. I'm drinking a nice glass of milk. I mean water. Even better. Okay, so anyway, in this video, I am going to respond to, he's going to talk about a whole bunch of cringe and chat. So I can't see any way we get through this whole video, even half of it. It's just going to take too long. So, if I'm happy with the video and I feel like it's worth doing more, I may do more parts of this video, but let's just get through what we get through. And we'll leave it at that for the time being. Maybe I'll do the rest of this video some other time, or more of it some other time. Maybe I'll do some more Kevin Ray Wilder stuff. Let's go.
Most alpha Chad thing that there is. You might be asking yourself, how is this even possible?
Okay, so the first thing, I guess I cut off the first part. The first part he says is that PUA is the most cringe thing ever. True. And then he says it's also the most alpha Chad thing that there is at the same time. I'm going to like hold off on the second part because I want to see where he's going with it before I comment on it. The thing that the first part he said about the most cringe thing ever, I don't think there's any question about that. I think he's a little late to the party. I mean, it's 2022. That might have been something, that might have been a novel observation in like 2009, but I don't know. But no, I'd agree with him.
In this space, we can't help but categorize things as either in the alpha category or the beta category. But in this case, it's a bit more complicated.
I mean, it's always more complicated than that. Like I've been trying to say, it's not that alpha and beta are useless descriptors. It's that you have to think of them as a spectrum. And just like masculine and feminine, or autistic and neurotypical, all those things, they're all on a spectrum. And you can have somebody who's got behaviors that are more on the alpha end, just like it can be more on the masculine end or more on the feminine end, or I mean, there is a fluidity and a spectrum to things. So no, when you try to do strict alpha beta characterizations, that's fucking useless. But in terms of like a spectrum, and then you can describe somebody reasonably as an alpha if they are far on the alpha spectrum, just like you can reasonably describe somebody as autistic if they're far on enough on the autistic spectrum, and vice versa.
Let me explain myself. When you initially come across PUA content, it's super cringe. I mean, the thought of you clowning yourself and coming up with these pickup lines to, get the girl, that's like by definition needy beta behavior, which is why, unfortunately, a lot of guys who teach pickup are frauds, especially if they're teaching you some autistic magical formula of A plus B equals endless pussy type shit. Yeah, run for the hills if you hear that. You know what? If your critiques of...
Yeah, I think that he himself used to... I don't know if... It sounds like with him, I don't have the full story. I'm sure some of the viewers have, is that he got into this, like he got into the PUA scene and tried to teach it, and then realized from working with Coach Whitepill that basically the shit doesn't work. He basically saw that, because Kevin Ray Wilder was able to see, like, I'm having success, but it seriously just didn't occur to him that the reason he was having success was because of his height, skull, frame, hair, those types, and, to a lesser extent, his face. That's why he was having success. It had nothing to do with, skills or sets or anything like that. So he, to his credit, got away from it. And I really do tip my hat to him there. But, yeah, so I think that's he does have some background in it. And then obviously, he's, decided he still wanted to be in the manosphere, but had to go another direction, if he wanted to keep his, intellectual integrity. So, yeah.
PUAs is just purely from that standpoint, I think it's valid. In the pickup artist community, they consider guys that take this super analytical, autistic approach as being quote-unquote gamey, and it's deserving of all of the scorn that it gets from the general public. In my belief, gamey PUAs are basically taking a polyjuice potion to temporarily take on the form of an alpha for a few.
Well, so I mean, I think what he's trying to criticize the people who approach PUA or game in an autistic way. He's separating them from the people who approach it in a non-autistic way. I mean, I agree there is a difference, and my understanding is that there's been at least some people who've had some success some success with the non-autistic way. They're both really bad though. I mean, so you're basically saying like, this shit isn't as shitty as the other shit. I mean, they're both really bad. So, I mean, I agree that there technically might be some difference, but I don't think it's useful to get into that level of minutia.
Few hours, some naive girl falls for his tricks, has extremely unsatisfying sex, and then wakes up next morning in horror, realizing what monstrosity she let enter her now that the polyjuice potion has worn off.
Gross. Well, I mean, I think we're really kind of missing the boat here. The problem is not that it wears off and the girl realizes like, ooh, this guy is gross, and that you've just pulled a con. The problem, the number one criticism with PUA techniques, whether they be the autistic ones or not, I think he's talking about the autistic ones, is that they don't work. So he's implying here that that shit works, and everybody knows it doesn't. It doesn't work at all. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about here.
It makes sense why women especially all cringe so much at the idea of pickup artistry, because in essence it's a low quality beta male.
See, I don't think women really cringe at it. I think that they don't really think about it. When they see it, it's pathetic and they roll their eyes. I would say it's more guys who cringe at it.
Who tricked her into thinking she's mating with an alpha.
Oops, fooled ya. Now you gotta carry my shit genetics for 9 months and have a beta male baby with my beta male genes.
Haha. That's what you get for riding the cock carousel, you fucking harlot.
What I personally believe.
Yeah, poor Kevin. We talk about midwits and stuff. I don't think Kevin's a midwit. I think he's closer to the Casey type. I mean, obviously, Kevin's way better than Casey, but in terms of like IQ, I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin's not too much higher than Casey. I think that like Rollo clearly has a higher IQ than Kevin. So I'm like, not even a midwit. And it can be hard. It can be kind of, it's hard to watch.
I believe is, instead of pretending to be the high quality alpha male guy that women want to date, how about you do what it actually takes to become the type of man that women are attracted to?
Well, you can't, because that would be violating the black pill. I mean, we still have to go over this. And, it's like, if it was somebody my age saying this, then I could be like, yeah, okay. But I mean, come on, it's 2022. This guy's like, what, 28 years old? So what year was it when he was 20? When he was 20, it was 24. You're right. Okay, so he might get a bit of a pass on the age front. But seriously, I mean, you've been on the internet. I know he's familiar with wheat waffles. I know he knows what the black pill is. He definitely doesn't like it. He doesn't want to accept it. It will be very painful for him. But come on, man, this is you're embarrassing yourself here. You want to become the man that women want? I mean, that's not going to happen. That's like saying that, like, instead of trying to trick NFL scouts that you're, worth, spending a first round draft pick on, why not just work out until you become good enough to be a first round draft pick? It's like, well, that's not going to happen, because you're not going to get taller. There's only there's only so much stronger you can get. There's only so much muscle mass you can add. You can't make your muscle bellies any longer. You can't make your there's only so much you can improve your coordination and body control. There's only so much you can improve your speed. There's only so much you can improve your quickness. There's different types of, I mean, there's so many things. And yeah, absolutely you can improve them, but everybody else is improving them too. And, ultimately it's going to come down to DNA. Like LeBron James has put a lot of effort into his craft to become a great basketball player. But there are literally millions of guys, millions, maybe tens of millions, who put in just as much effort, if not more. And it didn't matter, because the raw talent wasn't there. Which is, I mean, you can, I get it. I get it, how nobody has to tell me how annoying black pillars are. Like, no improvement is possible. It's over, blah, 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 blah. No, not necessarily. There are things you can do to improve. But it depends. Some people have the ability to improve a lot. Some people don't have the ability to improve as much. Even that is genetically determined. and and determined by circumstances. Um, so I mean, there are limits, like, and you certainly can't make yourself into the kind of guy women want, because there's the thing is, like, I mean, what are the things? What are we talking about? Are we talking about for one night stands, or are we talking about for relationships? Because if we're talking about for one night stands, you basically need to have at least a tolerable personality relative to your looks. Like, if you look like, like Henry Cavill, then you don't really, the more you have in looks, the less you need in personality. You need to basically have a personality that's good enough to not ruin it for you. But you need, like, at least like that level of personality. I mean, okay, maybe you can get it up to that point, if depending on the thing. So we'll ignore that then. But then you get into, like, the more standardized black pill stuff, which is looks. So I mean, what's a woman for a one night stand going to be looking for? Height, hair, facial attractiveness, and then to some extent frame. So yeah, look, you can go get, plastic surgery, you can get leg lengthening surgery and stuff, but again, that's only going to work if you've have a certain level of baseline to begin with. You can get hair restoration or whatever, or wear a wig that looks convincing. You can do that. I mean, stuff if you want. But I mean, I don't even know if that's what this guy's promoting. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. I think he's going to talk about, like, oh no, those are like fake self-improvement. You need to just hit the gym and I don't even know what else, like build a business or some, Casey Zander type bullshit. No, I mean, because there's really, again, outside of drugs and surgery, there's really nothing you can do to improve your SMV. And even, like I said, that's dependent on other shit, that there has to be a base minimum that you can work with. So, no, you're not going to be to become, the man she wants, the man she wants to just sleep with. And as for personality, same type of thing. Not personality. For relationships, it's a different type of thing. For relationships, that's where personality and intelligence become more important to women. And, if you're just kind of a boring dude, I don't think I'm confident. If you're a boring guy, there's nothing you can do to fix it. If you're a boring guy, you're not charismatic and stuff. I mean, you might be able to find somebody who your personality meshes well with, but if you're boring, that's kind of it. And then if you're not funny, you're never going to be funny. And it's same thing with intelligence. There's no way to improve IQ. You can learn about shit. You can overcome a low or mediocre IQ. Absolutely. But you can't really fix it. And that's what I mean, women are going to want not a guy who's, studied and become good at math despite his low IQ. They want a guy who's actually smart. I mean, again, to a point, we're talking about for a relationship, there's always going to be a minimum level of intelligence. So, I mean, and I think that's what, the biggest problem with the whole self-improvement thing, and I've talked about it before, is that these, the things that would actually make a difference, not just in how women view you, but in how society views you, the types of things that make a difference, like in your career, in terms of superficialities, I guess, and how you view yourself. Those are essentially immutable characteristics: height, frame, hairline, skull, facial looks and stuff. And great, yeah, you can change these immutable characteristics with surgeries or some drugs. That's true, but that's expensive. It's complicated. It takes a long time, and people aren't honest about it. That's the only real thing that you can do that's going to do anything. Instead you get a bunch of shit like eat right and hit the gym, and that will do nothing. It's not going to do shit, except in some very rare edge cases.
That's what I try to teach here on this channel, but let's be real. Building your body up in the gym and getting ripped takes years of hard work and consistency, and learning how to speak and become.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't. You can hit your, you can build your muscles up to their genetic maximum pretty quick. I would say usually within 6 months is you can hit your, your genetic limits for natural muscle gains. And with steroids, maybe it's a year instead of 6 months. And because obviously, with steroids, you can add more muscle. But so 6 months to a year, I guess. And as for losing weight, trivially easy. Just eat right, watch what you eat, do cardio, and you lose. I mean, losing a lot of weight is something boxers have been doing to make weight forever. You'd have guys who outside of the gym are well over 200 pounds, and then they cut down and make 140 because it's just a matter of eating right and working out. And now keeping the weight off, that's a little harder, but or a lot harder. But the things are like, oh, everybody wants an easy way out. They don't want to do these things. It's like, no, man, dude, go to any gym in the country. You don't even have to take DBDR's word for it. Go to literally any commercial gym in the country, and you will see tons of guys who are putting in the work, successfully building muscle and having low body fat. And, a lot of them are on steroids too. And you know what? They're still not Chad. They're just comping for not being Chad because nobody fucking cares about your muscles except for other gym bros.
Become charismatic as well as learning.
No. Stop it. There are things with personality and shit that you can learn how to do. Again, I come from a sales background. I know that there's things you can learn how to do. Learn how to become charismatic. No, you got it or you don't.
Learning the social skills required to command people's attention is a skill that takes a lifetime to master.
Nope, not true. Again, coming from a sales background, pretty much every sales trainer has what you just talked about, has it naturally. Bill Clinton didn't learn to become as charismatic as he was. He just was like that. Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, 3 black guys in a row. Sorry there. Donald Trump. Though that's just natural for them. And so, if you want to get a little darker, Hitler, some people just got it. And, not that there aren't different kinds of charisma, but has there ever been somebody who isn't naturally charismatic who can learn to speak like them? Or who can learn to have the magnetism that they do? No. Absolutely not. You got it or you don't. And, it's definitely, you can't be sitting around beating yourself up like, oh man, I would just be more charismatic if I worked hard at it. It's like, dude, no, no. It's not on you, and it's not to anybody's credit if they are charismatic. And I think that's when I talk about how the, helpful aspects of the black pill, it's stuff like that. It's gotten me at least, cause I used to see, a guy who was really tall or really good looking or really big or whatever. And I wouldn't necessarily hate that guy, but I would feel feelings of envy, maybe not always resentment, but feelings of envy. Like, oh, I wish I was that tall or that strong, or I feel so inferior to this guy because he's so tall or strong or handsome or shit like that. And then even like things he said, like charisma, not so much charisma per se, but just personality dominant stuff like that. Same type of things. I'd feel inferior because they had a really dominant personality and I don't, something like that. And, it was the black pill more than anything else that got me away from having any of those feelings of, envy or inferiority or whatever, because it's like, I see it and it's like, it's not really them, it's all it is, neurons. Neurons are it was just the only difference between them and me is that they got dealt a better genetic hand. It would be like saying like if you're playing poker with somebody, and they've got 4 kings and you've got a pair of 2s, you're like, yeah, fuck, I lost, right? I lost. This guy's got a better hand. He's got a better hand. His hand beats the shit out of my hand, and that sucks. I wish I had a better hand. But you don't feel inferior to that guy. You feel like your hand is inferior to his. And that's how I feel. That's how I feel when I see, people who, you could, in some sense of the word, describe as superior to me. I don't feel inferior to them at all. I feel like their hand beats mine. That's all. That's really all it is to me. And I would never have gotten there if it wasn't for the black pill, if it weren't for the black pill. So the black pill doesn't necessarily have to be about saying it's over and Eldar. The black pill, I mean, it's not really supposed to be about anything beyond just seeing the truth. How you deal with the truth, that's on you. But I don't think it's helpful to go the other way, which is, unless you're trying to sell bullshit courses like Kevin is. and then where you say a bunch of shit like, oh, okay, yeah, it's like, so something like Kevin, he knows he's tall, he's good looking, he's whatever, but he's got something that obviously he is insecure about, which is his charisma. So he's the same thing. It's like, oh, okay, well, charisma is something that if I just work at it, I can get it. No, you can't. You can't. Nothing is going to make you charismatic. I'm seriously, I'm not trying to be a hater. I wish it wasn't this way. I wish there was something. Look, actually, you know what? Let me rephrase that. There is a way to make you charismatic, and that is to have surgery on your brain to rewire it to be the brain of a charismatic person. That's it. That's seriously it. Because that's all it is neural connections. There's no like magic there or anything. So, but until they invent that, I mean, you're not going to be charismatic. I'm sorry. And that's just, but there's a people, I mean, but you still got dealt a better hand than almost everybody else in the history of humanity. So, I mean, don't be too sad about it. Okay.
So naturally, guys gravitate toward the easy solution. Hey, bro, enough with the philosophy bullshit. Just tell me the pickup line.
Nah, man, this was like me when I was younger. I spent so much time blaming myself. The thing is that, I wasn't the person I wanted to be. My life hadn't gone the way it was like, like, oh, if I just did this better, then, I could do this, which would open the door for this and shit like that. And, you can go the other way too, which is just sitting around and blaming your problems on, everybody else or bad luck or whatever. But, I mean, I think that it's like you're always responsible for your choices, but you're not necessarily responsible for your outcomes. In fact, often you're not responsible for the outcomes at all. Things are going to shake out how they're going to shake out. Like, it's like I made a lot of mistakes, and I am responsible. And there are things, despite what I've said in the past, that, well, see, that's where it's hard to make. Like, if I knew then what I knew now, there's things I would do differently. But looking back, other than things that I did that were just morally wrong, I'm talking about like stupid things I did that maybe held me back professionally. There are things I would have done differently, just because I know better now. And yeah, you could say like, oh, well, I could have put more work in and stuff like this. Like, yeah, no, you're right, I could have, and it's on me that I didn't. But I didn't care, and maybe some of the reason I didn't care was because of health. And there was, like I'm saying, there really were things that stopped me from or made it harder for me to succeed. And I think that's like that for a lot of people. So this like super taking responsibility is not realistic at all. It's just not in touch with reality, and it's going to be counterproductive. It's going to get people further away from where you want to go. If you're not living the life you want, yes, it could be just because you're a fucking lazy bum who blows, who's just wants to sit around and do shit. There are people like that, people who could go out and really improve their circumstances, but they don't actually really want to do anything. They just want to, they want the improvement to just come to them. They just want to sit there and wallow. And you don't have to, I know these people exist, but for most people, I would say it's really not their fault that they're not living the life they want. Again, thing is like when you're playing poker, you want to win the hand, you want to win the pot, but it's not your fault if you get dealt, a hand that isn't good enough to win. And I think that's what the case is with most people, who are dissatisfied with their lives.
But hey, if it works, right? Doesn't matter. Got laid. Tell that to Mystery, the godfather of pickup, the main protagonist of the book, The Game, and the author of the Mystery Method, who is basically now a sad, depressed old man.
Yeah, well, he's sad and depressed and he's old because, first of all, Mystery always had very noticeable psychological problems. 2, Mystery is a faded Chad. He lived the Chad life and he's not a Chad anymore because he aged out. 3, Mystery's got a kid. So, I mean, he's been out of this for a while. Like he got out, at a time where he still could have stayed in the game thing if he wanted to. And, so he's got old, he got old. It looks sort of like from that pic, he got fat. And so he's aged out of the whole Chad thing, and he's got nothing else. He just aged out of the thing where he was relevant. And that's just, I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's got nothing to do with the techniques he used. It wasn't like the techniques he used. I mean, they may have caused some problems too, but the problems were always there with Mystery. And it just became clearer with age. That's just how it goes. So, I mean, saying like, let's say Mystery had never got into PUA. Would he be doing any better now than he is? I doubt it. I really doubt it.
Tell that to Ross Jeffries, arguably the first modern pickup artist, who's basically now a glorified cat lady living alone in a studio apartment in his mid-60s.
Come up here, get some brushies. I've had, or rather, Pranilla's had me about 3 years. She's my cat wife. I think she thinks we're married. She's extremely jealous. Doesn't like women to come over.
It's not as simple.
Again, the guy is in his 60s. The guy is in his, there's nothing, I mean, what do you want to see him doing? You want to see him still like doing PUA? I don't know what point you're trying to make. I mean, these PUA guys were pathetic when they were young, and then they got more pathetic as they got older, you know? But I mean, are they really any more pathetic than any other washed out failure single guys in their 40s, 50s, or 60s? I mean, unfortunately, the way Mystery and Jeffries ended up, that's not that uncommon. That's really not that uncommon. So it has nothing to do with PUA.
Simple as just getting laid. We as men implicitly understand that sex is the ultimate form of validation from a woman, and it's a stamp of approval on your masculinity from that particular.
See, this really mystifies me. I know there's something to this because I've had guys talk to me about this and talk about like the approval. Like they would say that one reason that they want sex is validation. And, you know, I just can't relate at all. I can't relate at all. Like the validation has like, it's just not something that I've ever thought about or have ever had any interest in. Now I can tell you when I was younger, there was like validation for hearing a girl liked me or she thought I was cute or something. When I was younger, there was certainly some of that. That's one thing that I could understand. But if you're saying that you're getting like some next level of validation from sleeping with her, I mean, I just, first of all, I don't get why you care. Second of all, I don't get what validation you feel like you're getting. Other than that, I know he's about to say it right now. I mean, that's really strange. And here's one other thing I want to say about that. The Chads that I have known, because he's going to talk about, this is why guys like to brag about it, brag about all the girls who've been. That has not been the case with the Chads that I've known. And I'm sure there are exceptions. Generally speaking, the Chads I've known have preferred not to talk about it and would get annoyed if you tried to pry. They would get like vague, be like, yeah, okay. That would be more of a normie thing or maybe a Chad light thing to kind of like to brag about conquest. And look, I'm sure there are Chads who brag about it. I'm just talking about the ones that I knew. And maybe it's a little bit of a generation thing. Maybe the place I went to high school and college was just kind of weird. I don't know. But which, you know, thing is like, you know, so Kevin is definitely a guy who really gives me, you know, alpha on the outside and beta on the inside vibes. And I don't know if he was one of those guys who was like really skinny or like really short or really socially awkward. And then he just hit a late growth spurt and he's still like, you know, a fragile beta on the inside, because that's a very strange, I would not, if I just saw him on the street, I would not have expected him to say something like that. That like he gets some validation out of being with girls. And to the point where from based on what he just said, I get the feeling that that's the biggest thing for him is the validation. And I know he's not alone in it, but it's fucking weird. It's fucking weird. And I would say that if that's the way you feel, I would say that that's probably, I mean, that's the biggest problem. And so if you're saying you're going to try to deal with that insecurity by going to get the validation, I'm not sure that's not just going to make it worse. I would say maybe you need to do some work and try to figure out why you feel like you need this validation and then get away from it, you know? Because that's fucking weird. That's weird. And I don't think it's normal. Let me rephrase it. It probably is normal because our society's so fucked up, but it's like, do I think it's normal how guys have historically felt? No, I don't think so. I think it's a very modern thing, probably.
Particular woman that's accepted the invitation to your bedroom. I mean, why else would guys care so much about bragging to his bros about how many bodies he's got? This is basically...
Again, that's I've known guys like that, but for the most part, not really. That would be more of a thing that maybe a little bit in high school, like middle school and high school. But by the time you get older, certainly by the time you're Kevin's age, nah, I don't think so. I mean, by the time, like I was in my mid-20s, if somebody was bragging about it, bragging about their lay count, that would be like really weird to me. Like really. And I'm talking about just by the time I was in my mid-20s. Even like early in college, I would have been like, okay. And I don't think I'm the only person who would have reacted that way. I mean, maybe at a frat party, but that's fucking weird, man.
This is basically what's going through a girl's mind unconsciously when she mates with you.
Yes, I'm a
You're grossing me out. Can you stop it, please?
girl, and I think you're so amazing, so I'm going to spread my legs and risk letting you blam inside of me, possibly making me fully dependent on you for the next 18 years, but I'm willing to risk it because I think you're awesome, and you're so hot I can't help myself.
Makes sense. Guys would naturally take pride in their lay count if they think...
Well, dude, I never thought of it that way. That's fucking weird, man. I mean, I guess technically you're right, but I mean, that's what you're fucking thinking about? Jesus, man. I don't know. I don't know, man. You're like, I don't know.
I think that represents how many women approve of them. But if this is all based on a flawed view of who you actually are, what do you think that does to you internally? If you're just using a bunch of pickup artist techniques, the girl you're seducing is attracted to a persona, a face you contrive that you think she will like.
Look, I see where you're getting with this, but the what you're missing is the biggest thing you're missing, which shows that you just either don't understand or haven't accepted the black pill, is that what you're talking about doesn't happen. That, you know, that you're basically able to, with any type of consistency whatsoever, con girls into thinking you're more desirable than you really are. That doesn't happen. Okay. It doesn't work. That's one of the things the black pill is trying to teach you. Like a lot of the other stuff is more judgment stuff or value judgments and stuff. But this is just, you know, black pill 101, that it doesn't fucking work. Okay. A girl can't trick you into thinking that she looks like a 20-year-old Emily Ratajkowski. You know, she either looks like Emily or she doesn't, or as good as Emily or she doesn't. And you're not going to convince her through any type of, you know, game or whatever that you're some high value guy. These tricks just simply aren't going to work. So you're just completely wrong here. What you're saying is the basis of what you're getting at is wrong. But then he's saying something else, saying like, how is it going to make you feel if you realize that it's not the real you? So even if it theoretically could work. So that basically what he's getting at there is kind of an interesting, maybe philosophical question, albeit not a practical one. Something if you were going to say like let's say, you know, if you're a listener to this and you're somebody who really is envious of Chad, you know, you really want to be Chad. But if I was like, okay, you know, like I'm a genie, I'm going to say, okay, well, guess what? I'm going to put you in the body of a Chad and you go out and do your Chad thing. Would you not be able to enjoy it because you wouldn't feel validation? You wouldn't feel like it was you because you would be like, oh, well, this isn't really me. This is just the body that the genie put me in. Is that how you guys would feel? I think that's what he's saying. What he's saying here, and it's just like yeah. I think that's probably too philosophical for most black pillars. He's just, I mean, it's also irrelevant because it's probably too philosophical for him too. It's just, what he was really getting at is like, if you could manipulate women into bed, it wouldn't be worth it because you're not really going to be getting the validation because you're going to know that you just tripped her. As if like, if you had, you know, what he was talking about is more if it was something like, imagine every woman in the world got a disease that, you know, when she looked at you and only you, you looked like Henry Cavill. And then all of a sudden you started being able to sleep with beautiful women, but you know that, oh, they're not really sleeping with me. They're sleeping with I'm not getting any validation because they think they're sleeping with Henry Cavill or some shit like that. That's basically what he's talking about. Something like that. Yeah, but the thing is, there is no disease like that, and there's no skills you can use. There's no skills you can use to make women think you're Henry Cavill. So it's just stupid. You're just off base.
Because you think who you actually are isn't good enough.
Well, I mean, look, if you're watching this video, who you are isn't good enough. And let's be honest, if Chads don't sit around watching this shit. They don't watch my content. They don't watch. Well, that's not true. A couple of Chads watch my stuff, but the thing is, the Chads who watch my stuff, they tend to be like, from my conversations with them, they seem to me like they can't even really fully enjoy being Chads because they feel like it's like kind of what I said earlier. Like it's like they just got dealt a better hand. Like it's not really them. I'm sure they get some of the validation stuff. I'm sure they do have feelings of superiority, but not as much as an unself-aware, as a blue-pilled Chad would. I'd say to truly enjoy being Chad, you need to either be blue-pilled or red-pilled. There are black-pilled Chads, absolutely, but being black-pilled really reduces the fun from what I've seen, from my conversations with them, and which I think is probably the largest part of Kevin's problem. I don't think it's about trying to sell a course. I'm sure that contributes. I think it's about, he can't really enjoy his Chad stuff while being black pilled. So he does this red pill, blue pill gobbledygook bullshit. No, so I mean, you're not good enough obviously the problem, if you want to get philosophical, is you identifying attributes as belonging to you. That's a whole different video though. But let's just say for the sake of argument that those attributes that we all tend to naturally identify as being us or as belonging to us, let's say that they really are us for the sake of argument. In that case, no, you're not good enough. I'm sorry. The black pillars are right. That's how it is. Kevin, you're good enough. We aren't. And that's just how it is. So, and there's nothing you can say to that. Oops.
Each time this fake persona of you adds another notch to the bedpost, your true self, who you really are behind the mask, realizes more and more how much of a loser he is.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too off base with this, but that's the thing is, what is your true self, right? Like, in Buddhism, they say that what we think of as the self is the five aggregates. Your consciousness, your thoughts, and that would include like your memories and stuff. Your physical form, and when we say physical form, we're including the brain, so your intelligence and stuff, your personality, and I forget something else. But the thing is, you take away each one of those, and then you say like, take away each one of those aggregates, and like let's say you take away your physical form. Are you still you? And you would say, yeah, of course. And like, well, how is it you if you don't have the physical form? It's like, well, still have my personality, my thoughts, my consciousness. So that's all there. So it's still me. And then it's like, okay, well, what if I take away your consciousness? Is it still you? And then you'd be like, yeah. First people would say no, but then when they think about it, they would be like, well, wait a minute, somebody in a coma, do they still exist? Or me, like when I'm in very deep sleep and am not conscious, are you really going to say that you don't exist then? It's like, no, you still exist because the physical form's still there. The physical form is still alive. So yeah, it's still you. And then so none of these forms, none of these things by themselves are really the self. They're just, it's an emergent phenomenon. So if you do that, what is the true self? It's not your physical form, probably, is what Kevin Ray Wilder is going to say. Okay, well then what is it? Your personality? Because I can tell you, your personality is just fucking neurons, and that's really easy to change. I mean, you can get things like, yeah, you'll find a time that, like, if you ever like do some serious meditation work, like, isolate yourself, do meditation or whatever, you will notice your personality dramatically change. Once the mind calms down, that's when you start to see your quote unquote true self, which is nothing like what you imagine the real you is. You don't have to believe me. Go see for yourself. I mean, actually, you know what? Don't go see for yourself, because some of you guys are nuts and would probably have a nervous breakdown. And even some of you who aren't nuts would probably have a nervous breakdown. But you'll notice it if you do a lot of meditation and are isolated for a lot. You'll all of a sudden you'll actually see it, like, wow, my personality is completely different. Your likes and dislikes have changed. Your when the mind is calm, that's the closest thing you're going to see to your true self. And it's nothing like who you think of as yourself. So, I mean, again, I think that was way more philosophical than this needed to be. It's just something that I'm interested in. And so what he's talking about here, again, is it's just a bunch of nonsense. You can just ignore it.
That these girls he's banged aren't actually making love to him, but a polyjuice potion facade of a Chad to hide the fact that the man...
No, not true. Any guy who is getting laid, I can guarantee you, he is, whatever he's doing to get laid, he is not convincing these girls that he's actually Chad. Okay? And this shows just a huge misunderstanding of what Chad is. I mean, we're using Chad as like kind of like the way that, red pillars used to use alpha back in the day. But at least with alpha, it kind of made sense in some ways. But with Chad, the whole point of the Chad thing that we say in Black Pill is that Chad is looks only. Young, ideally white. He doesn't have to be. He's the race is overstated, but ideally white. Full head of hair, warrior skull, hunter eyes, the other shit. Like just a good face in general. Good proportions. Good frame. I'm not sure if I already said height. At least not excessive body fat. I think I already said young and stuff, and no like deformities, nothing wrong. That's Chad. Now that guy can have the most beta, pathetic personality in the world. He can be some guy who's into like the most debased femdom shit or whatever. He can let people walk all over him. He can do any of that. He's still fucking Chad. It's a purely physical description. It has nothing to do with what's on the inside. It has nothing to do with behavior. Okay? So you can't make a girl think you're 6'2". Okay, you can't make a girl think your face is as good as Heath Ledger's, or that you have hair like Adam Driver. Okay, you can't do that. There's no way to con a girl into thinking you're a Chad. So get the fuck off of that, because it's making it sound like you don't understand the Black Pill at all.
Man behind the mask is really actually a needy, weak man who's so insecure in himself he needs to hide behind a persona, that he needs to lie about who he is.
Yeah, look, and again, I don't want to be a hater because Kevin seems like a nice guy and he's got a ton of stuff going for him, and there is, you can tell, a genuine desire to help. It's one thing to say like criticize stuff about Casey, because Casey is at least like really unlikable, and I think Casey probably is a psychopath, but Kevin is, again, like him or not, I don't think he's a psychopath. I like the insecurity jumps out of the screen with you. I mean, you are a very insecure guy, more so than you. I mean, I think you're not aware of it. You're not aware of just how insecure you are, but it's really obvious. It like jumps out of the screen, and it's like, so I don't know if you're projecting here or what.
And pretend he's into magic and tarot cards in order to get girls to like him. I look at the early PUAs that purely employ these gamey tactics as a cautionary tale. This can be you if you try to generate attraction and seduce women through disingenuous means.
No, that's going to be you if you don't get married when you're 60. If you're lucky, that's going to be you. Whether you're Chad or not, or something like that. I mean, the thing is, I've seen it. Chads who faded out and they never settled down, and they end up like Ross Jeffries wasn't a Chad, but they end up just like him. They all, whether you're Chad or not, just like, death is the great equalizer, age is almost as much of an equalizer as death. And the moral is not go get married and have kids. The moral is, there are some good things about getting old, but there are some bad things. And that, one of the bad things is that it's not going to be really aesthetic probably when you get older. You're not going to look as good, even if you don't look like much now. You're not going to look as good. And you're going to be probably kind of weird, especially if you haven't gotten married or had kids. You're maybe going to be really weird. That's just how it goes.
When done through disingenuous means, the speed with which you succeed in most things tends to be directly proportional to the intensity of the pain you feel when you ultimately fail. whether that be starting a scammy business with shady sales tactics.
Kevin. Your business is selling like self-improvement shit to 20-year-olds. So I mean, come on, Kevin.
Investing in BitConnect, or starting a red pill NFT. That's totally not a grift.
It is an NFT with an intent and a purpose behind it. The lion is a symbol.
I don't see why dating in relationships
that was good. That was funny.
Would be any different. Now, if you want to know my full thoughts on PUAs, I dive in deeper into this topic in this video here. I made it a while back, but my beliefs on pickup artists has more or less been the same for quite some time now. Anyhow, what I didn't cover in that video, and will now, is why, although pickup artistry can be one of the most beta things ever, it can also be one of the most Chad things ever.
Spoiler alert, it can't. Okay, I know I've already said this. I just want to go over it one more time. It can't be Giga Chad. An action can't be Chad. Okay? This is so basic. Again, it's 101. If you don't understand that, you have to understand this before you can understand anything else of the black pill. It's PUA is not Chad, and it's not Chad either, other than the fact that Chads usually wouldn't use it or wouldn't need it. An action can't be Chad. An action could theoretically be alpha, if you want to talk about it actually, but an action can't be Chad or Giga Chad. Okay? Chad is a 100% physical descriptor of a man's sexual attractiveness. That's it. Any other usage of it is complete misusage of the term. Okay? And again, it indicates complete misunderstanding of the most important, not even the core of the black pill. If you need to understand this to understand anything else about the black pill, you need to understand what Chad is, what Chad means. Jesus.
Back when I was living in Vietnam, I was working out at the beach, and I remember I was tying my shoes, and I looked up, and I saw this stunning Russian girl. She wasn't the traditional, Slavic blonde hair, blue eyes. Her family was originally from Odessa in Ukraine, where they're known to have a little bit of a darker complexion, so I actually thought...
So probably had some Tatar ancestry. That's my guess. I know that there's a lot of Tatars in Crimea. Actually, Odessa's not in Crimea, right? But it's really close, so that's probably what happened. And a lot of Greeks used to live in Odessa, way back in the day, ancient Greece and stuff. So
thought she was Brazilian or something. Obviously I learned this later on. Anyway, dude, she was so hot that I was instantly scared. But I mustered up the courage, and I went up to her, chatted her up a bit, and asked her out. We did a workout together on the spot and ran along the beach like something out of a movie.
Look, I mean, congrats. I mean, whatever. I mean, it sounds like most guys are into that kind of stuff. So congrats, and that's cool. I'm happy for you. I'm being serious, but I just want to say something though. What you're describing, and I know you're not trying to say you got it from PUA shit. I get that. I just want to make this clear I want you to know that everybody watching this knows, because I'm not sure all your viewers do know. What you saw, whatever happened between her and you was a looks match couple. Okay. And without the looks match, none of this story happens. Okay. So you guys were able to click and get together and stuff, but the basis of that was the initial looks match.
And then we went on a date that very night. After a few weeks of getting to know her, we were remembering back to when we first met. And I told her that I was actually really nervous before I went up and talked to her. And she was actually very surprised by that. Her specific words were, "But I thought you were an extrovert." Even though this was over 2 years ago now, I remember this specific statement clear as day because I was shocked. I was like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? First of all, I'm definitely more of an introvert than anything. Second, do you not realize the level of balls it takes for a guy to approach a girl?
And I will be adding your ex-girlfriend to my jerk-off roster. Thank you very much.
Like you, I'm not saying all women are ignorant of how tough it is for guys to approach them, especially midday while sober, but
it's not tough for me at all. I can, But then again, I mean, I'm also a lot older than you. When it would have been hard. Well, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I've never approached a girl in my life, but I could. I mean, so maybe I'd probably have some idiots would say like, "Oh, you wouldn't have the balls to do it." Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Yeah, I know I could do it. So I don't really feel any need to prove it. But I've never approached any girl, attractive or otherwise. So, but I'm trying to think like, would it be any harder for me to approach a beautiful girl as opposed to an unattractive one? I mean, when I was younger, it probably would have made a little bit of a difference. So I guess I kind of, I can't criticize him too much here.
But girls in general, especially the really hot ones, just don't really get how tough cold approaching actually is.
I think they do get it. Because they get it a lot. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of times they're so rude about it is because they realize, like, I got to make it really clear that not interested, and I want to bust. And also that it gets old. You start dealing with the same shit enough of times, and you're like, dude, fuck this, stop this, leave me alone. I got a right to go out and do my thing and not be get these ham-fisted hits on from people who I'm not attracted to at all. And they might even be insulted that you would even think that you could get them. So that maybe that one's a little bit different, but still. No, I think they get it. I think they get it. I mean, maybe they don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think they do.
I mean, it is so tough that I reckon at least 90% of guys have never cold approached a girl during the day without alcohol.
Well, yeah, because it's fucking stupid. It's rude. It's just, don't do it. I mean, you say like, okay, well, it worked for you. Like, all right, you know what? In certain situations, yes. If your looks matched, go for it. If your looks matched and you go but that's like, I don't know. If your looks matching is something you really want, go for it, I guess. But making it a regular habit is weird. But if it makes you happy, I guess you can do it. But if you're not looks matched, and that's like a lot of the PUA shit I see, is I see them going for not looks match stuff, and then they trying to run like a set or anything like that. Like he just sounds like he didn't know what PUA was then, or maybe he did. I don't know. But it sounds like, he met her like a normal person would do. He saw her, thought she was hot. He happened to be her looks match, went up to her, and just started a conversation. And that's what I know my brother had tons of success in college doing just that. He would go to his looks matches or a little bit above, and he would kill it. He would kill it doing that shit. So, no, I never did anything like that. And yeah, he got shut down too, but that's like, what does that have to do with PUA? You're just talking about approaching, and there's nothing really special about it, and you don't need to do it.
It's nerve-wracking, and it feels weird, and you feel like everyone is staring at you.
Well, look, dude, it feels weird because it is weird, and everybody's staring at you because they're like, oh, great, what the fuck is this guy doing? Have you ever had to fucking witness it? It's painful. I've had to see it in college a few times, and it was like watching a bug be, squished on a windshield really slowly, except about 1 billion times worse. It was just like, dude, make it stop. I don't care. If you want to humiliate yourself, fine, but do you have to do it in front of me?
In the back of your mind, you can't help but think like, oh shit, if she rejects me, I'm going to turn right back around and walk the opposite direction of her.
Horrible attitude. That's if you worked sales, you would not think that way. You don't know. When you do sales, you don't think like that. So how about you make another video after you've worked a sales job and then get back to me, because I'm a pro and I'm hearing a bunch of shit from an amateur here, and I'm just above this. So take that shit somewhere else.
Her, and it's going to be obvious that I just got blown out and I'm going to look like a freaking idiot. But despite how tough this is, usually girls aren't impressed when a guy approaches them. Again, especially if they're really hot and they have guys approach them all of the time. While on the other hand, us guys, if we're being honest with ourselves, are very impressed.
Well, would you be impressed with somebody knocking on your door trying to sell you something? Because, before I got into sales, I wasn't. I'm not sure. I don't think he's criticizing them. He's just kind of making a point. And, he might have more of a point than I realized, because before I got into sales, like now, if somebody came and knocked on my door and was trying to sell me something, or even not even just trying to be like, hey, do you want to sell your house? Something like that. We used to get guys like that. Because I remember how fucking irritated I would get with those guys before I got into sales. when they come here like, hey, you know, we sold our house. Are you thinking about selling? I would be like, dude, none of your fucking business. What are you here for? That's get out of here. What the fuck, man? And now, I mean, I haven't seen him in forever, but I'd see him and I'd be like, dude, this takes fucking balls. You know, I really am impressed. So yeah, I mean, maybe he's right. Maybe he's right about the girls when you don't see it from that perspective. I don't know. Sorry, I kind of lost the thread there.
When we see another guy shoot a shot, because we know how much courage it takes to approach a
no horrible example. So when I got into sales, I started being impressed by other guys doing it, by other guys doing really good impressed stuff. I mean, not just impressed. Sometimes I'm just in like complete awe. Like if I watch a live video of a cold call. I mean, now not so much because I've done it a lot, but I mean, I've done cold calling, but I haven't really done any in-person cold calling. So seeing somebody do like an in-person cold call would really impress me. When I say in-person cold call, they call it like knocking on doors, even though you didn't call anybody, they still call that a cold call. The ones that I think I could do that. The ones though that really impress me are the people who walk into doctors' offices and stuff that have the no soliciting signs up, and then they go right to the secretary who's trained to deal with it and be like, hey, is Dr. or something here? And they'll be like, look at the sign, no soliciting. It's like, yeah, I see the sign, but I got a job to do. Can I speak with the doctor? And those are the people that even at this stage of my career, they would still really impress me. So anyway, after I got into sales, then I started to think those people, instead of finding salespeople irritating or irritating or socially retarded or whatever, or rude, I started to find them really impressive. But I never, it didn't change my mind at all to people who were doing pickup, which is just a form of sales, a more personal form, but sales nonetheless. And, no, I mean, it's every bit as cringe and hard to watch now as, you know, whenever. Like, I know if I try to watch a PUA video, I can never make it through the whole thing. I can never make it through more than 15 seconds without having to turn it off because the cringe is so bad. And so, yeah, I mean, he's just wrong if he thinks that guys are impressed by this shit. They're not.
A hot girl and ask her out, especially outside of a social environment where there's no liquid courage involved. Well, actually, I take that back. There are guys that are impressed, and then there's fucking liars who act like they're not impressed and say things like, oh, so cringe, brutal rejection.
No, that's the thing is when people say I don't know if this guy's like, you know, maybe got a little on the spectrum himself. No, the people who are saying it's so cringe, it's because it's so cringe. I mean, it's fucking painful to watch this shit. And I don't know if maybe you just haven't ever seen it, or maybe you're just so used to seeing it from your students, but it is so cringe. It's brutal. And look, I mean, I can say it's cringe and brutal and still admire the courage and the effort. But no, people who are saying it's cringe, I mean, it's true. It's true. And it is often extremely brutal to watch. All right. So I don't know. Maybe we'll do the rest of the video some other time. That's all for now, and I'll see you in the next.